What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of the 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below, the best gaming related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. So I have a couple of announcements before we get into the show. Coming in, guys, at number one. One of the things that I announced on my social media, which of course my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you guys can check out all of those links in the description down below. I would love to connect with you guys more on social media, but that being said, the announcement that we made was that the 8 Below Show, Horror Theory, as well as the Gearcast are all going to be available now on Spotify as well as Apple Music. And you guys can check out the links in the description down below to each of my, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Apple Podcasts, wherever it is that you listen to your podcasts. At least Spotify and Apple Podcasts are the two largest. You guys can check out all of that content there. In the event that you don't want to watch the show itself on YouTube, you can listen to it, whether you're on your way to work or on your way back from a long day, wherever it is that you are and whatever time it is of day, you'll be able to watch it on YouTube still, but also be able to listen to it on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. And I'm really wanted to make this push into that transition, guys, because what I think is really important, YouTube as a platform, I say it all the time, it opened human potential when it comes to being able to create content for anyone and everyone across the globe. And everyone out there who creates content on YouTube has a voice. And I absolutely love YouTube, this platform, and what it's done for me personally, and it's incredible, and I plan on continuing to produce tons of content for you. Horror Theory, the 8 Below Show, and the Gearscast aren't going anywhere. They're staying here on YouTube. Be able to listen to all the audio side of things on Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts. And this is the first transition, guys, to exactly what it is that we're trying to have and echo into existence here in the future. I am incredibly excited. It's because of you guys, all the support you've been giving me. I want to thank you guys so much for that. All of it means so much. We have, after starting this YouTube channel in 2018 and see where we are now and where we're pushing to go, I couldn't have done it without you guys, and I really appreciate all the love and support. So you guys can check out my Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts. Now let's get on to announcement number two. Our second announcement is partially an announcement, but it's also a call for help at the same time, guys. As you know, being a very small YouTube channel, and we've grown, and I've been very, very thankful for that. But another step in the direction that we're trying to take this thing is, how can we do more? How can we give more content to all of you? How can I connect with each and every one of you more and more every single day? Well, I'm excited to announce that we've created a Patreon. And on our Patreon page, guys, we are going to have a number of things on there, whether, we're talking a couple of different tiers that you can choose from, but all of that is there so that we create exclusive content for all of you on Patreon. See, on zrotv, I create content around gaming, esports, entertainment, horror games, all different realms of this. A couple of things that I wanted to do on Patreon is three things. Number one is I want to have Q&As with you guys on a monthly basis where, I can answer your questions, and those would be, the first level of the exclusive content. Number two is going to be movie reviews. Guys, I'm a massive movie fan. I love movies, and it's been such an incredible journey, in terms of when I went to school for filmmaking at the New York Film Academy to where we are now. I still keep in touch with movies, watch a lot of movies as well as TV shows, and so I am going to be putting all of my movie reviews exclusively on Patreon moving forward. So any movie review I ever do, I'm not going to be putting it on zrotv. It's all going to be on the Patreon. And that leads me to number three, which are game reviews. Something that I had wondered and thought about doing for a while was create game reviews here on zrotv, but I decided to separate it from this YouTube channel because we're prioritizing Horror Theory, the 8 Below Show, as well as the Gearscast here on the YouTube channel. And now that, as well as the movie reviews, are going to be exclusive to Patreon. So if you become a patron, guys, we're going to be able to have real conversations, whether it's through the Q&A exclusive content, whether it's through movie reviews, game reviews, and you guys will be able to expect those on a monthly basis. And there's going to be a lot more to come with that. And like I said, Patreon has really given a massive opportunity to not only creators, but also further ways that communities can connect. And so I can't wait to connect with all of you on Patreon as well, guys. Let's grind. A game we want to know more about is Elder Scrolls 6. This was a game that was announced. We got a very, very short teaser, basically just a camera shot, showing a landscape and some mountains in the background. And then the official graphic for Elder Scrolls 6 came up, and we got that, and we knew it was going to be years away. It was going to be coming after Starfield. But really, how far is it? And what are the things that we know about this game right here, right now? Let's talk about it. So guys, in an article coming to us from Omri Petit of PC Gamer, that release of tension, that slight unclenching of strained patience, that's the feeling of possibility opening up before us. We're officially in an after Starfield era. We're past one of the major landmarks on the road, on the long road back to Tamriel, and on a downward descent from distant space to the familiar fantastical world of mud crabs and stolen sweet rolls. It can't be long before we hear about what's next. Okay, admittedly, we still shouldn't hold our breath. Chances are Starfield's going to have a long, healthy focus as the apple of Bethesda's PRI, and Elder Scrolls 6 likely won't be steaming into the station afterwards. Todd Howard doesn't let anyone upstage his spaceships, not even himself. The first big thing, guys, is yes, Elder Scrolls 6 is still a long way off. There have been reports that have come out that it's in early development at this point, and that was just, like a couple of months ago we were hearing this. And so it still is a long ways away. And when we say that, it could be 3, 4, 5 years away still, because Starfield, obviously just releasing to the world, Bethesda has got a majority of their team on that, right? Kind of similar to, Grand Theft Auto 6 with Rockstar. They probably have all hands on deck over there. So with Bethesda, they're working on Starfield and, servicing that game. Moving forward, though, once Elder Scrolls 6 gets fully into development, when you have a really big team working on it, that's when we're going to start hearing more and more. So in terms of the release date, this is what everybody wants to know. Well, nobody knows. We're hoping to see Elder Scrolls 6 release sometime this decade, but it's anyone's guess. Now that Starfield is launched, the Elder Scrolls 6 is supposedly next on the to-do list, but it's safe to assume the space game will still have Bethesda's full attention for the immediate future. As far as indications of where Elder Scrolls is in the meantime, Todd Howard described the sequel as being in pre-production back in June 2022, and during Microsoft's 2023 hearing with the FTC, Phil Spencer said that it's 5+ years away. So hunker down, it's going to be a long haul. So yeah, look, and they're giving kind of not, exact dates and things of that nature, guys. I would say that we're still a long ways off, but we're probably going to start hearing more and more about it, I would say, in the next couple of years. And then, as time goes and it starts to ramp up more and more, the Elder Scrolls 6, Bethesda's going to take their time with this title. So that's why I think, 5 years, 4 or 5 years is probably not too far off. Now, that being said, in a lengthy video interview from November of 2022, Todd Howard touched on a whole swath of topics: Starfield, video game creative philosophy, NPC romance, and of course, Elder Scrolls 6. About its release, I wish it was soon, Howard said, echoing earlier statements about Bethesda development times. We want them out too, and I wish they didn't take as long as they did, but they do. If I could go back in time, it would never have been my plan to wait as long as it's taken. From there, Howard confirmed the studio's love for the world of Elder Scrolls, noting that he spent more time developing in that space than anywhere else. Following the continued popularity of Skyrim, Howard said that work is being done to give the next Elder Scrolls game a similar lifespan. You have to think about, okay, people are going to play the next Elder Scrolls game for a decade, 2 decades, Howard said, and that does change the way you think about how you architect it from the get-go. So when you think about it, Elder Scrolls 6, could this be the very last Elder Scrolls game ever made? You wouldn't think so, because of how massive of a juggernaut this franchise is for Bethesda and now for Xbox. I think that their mindset though is that this is going to be, 10 plus years of, servicing this upcoming title. So Todd Howard put a blessing and a curse on us by announcing Elder Scrolls 6 at E3 2018 despite Starfield was still being in development. We are very patient, so we're just going to casually take the years of E3 in which we haven't heard any more about Elder Scrolls 6. And no, we don't intend to stop if E3 is in the grave. So E3 2019, I think everyone should be very patient, Todd Howard told IGN. And then in 2020, if you're coming at me for details now and not years from now, I'm failing to properly manage your expectations, said Pete Hines. In 2021, it's good to think of the Elder Scrolls 6 as still being in a design phase, Todd Howard said in an interview shortly after E3 2021. Todd Howard said that Bethesda games take a while. Wish they came out faster, really do. We're trying as hard as we can, but we want them to be as best as they can be for everybody. So that's interesting. I mean, it's obviously, the years have gone by since we got the announcement in 2018, and it seems like it's just a very slow process. And I think they announced it too early in reality. I'm glad that we know it was coming, but the fact that it is, it was 2018 when it was announced. It's 2023, going on 2024. Starfield finally came out. I feel that they should have just focused solely on Starfield, and then shortly after Starfield release, they announced their next game like next year, and that would have been the Elder Scrolls 6. But nonetheless, at least we're very happy that Elder Scrolls 6 is coming. With so little information, Elder Scrolls fans have been taking to picking apart anything Elder Scrolls related to find clues. This is in terms of the setting, guys. Starting with the original teaser trailer from 2018, Todd Howard suggested that clues do indeed exist, saying the teaser contains hints at where it's set. The community has run with that. Todd Howard himself has confirmed that Elder Scrolls 6's location has already been decided and that this decision was made a while ago. So in terms of where it is, guys, well, High Rock, it's a reasonable thing to guess, and currently the most popular theory. The original teaser trailer shows rocks and appears to be high. There you go, High Rock. That's not quite enough to be sure, though. TES geography changes quite a bit over time, and High Rock has already been covered by the early games. So have Hammerfell, Morrowind, Cyrodiil, and Skyrim. So could it be Hammerfell? Well, thanks to a New Year's post by Bethesda at the very end of 2020, Hammerfell is another possible destination. No one is quite sure if the image posted is really a clue about Elder Scrolls 6, but the message about mapping the future sure does seem like it could be. Fans have speculated that the placement of candles on the image is a clue, most notably the one placed beneath the word Hammerfell in the undrawn area of the map west of Skyrim. Hammerfell is home to the Redguard people, and its Alkir Desert could line up with the rocky, arid environment shown in the original teaser trailer. So could it be there? Could it be Black Marsh or Valenwood? It's so hard to say, guys. But in terms of the development, well, it's good to think of Elder Scrolls as still being in a design phase, which is what Todd Howard said in a June 2021 interview. But we're checking the tech. Is this going to handle the things we want to do in that game? Every game will have some new suits of technology. So Elder Scrolls 6 will have some additions on to Creation Engine 2 that the game is going to require. So I could sit here and explain the game to you, and you would say, that sounds like you don't even have the technology. How long is that going to take? He said. And so it's something that's going to take a lot of time, what we have in mind for that game. So look, at the end of the day, it sounds like they really want to push the technology, which I love this. I think that's awesome. But at the same time, could this be one of those sequences or turn of events where, like George Lucas with Star Wars, he made 4, 5, and 6 and then came back around to make 1, 2, 3 of the Star Wars franchise? And the reason being was because the pod race in Star Wars, he didn't feel that the technology was there. And so he decided to do 4, 5, 6 first and then come back around when the technology was here to do 1, 2, 3. And so I'm wondering if they're waiting until the technology is right for them to be able to do exactly what they want with Elder Scrolls 6. The gap in between is going to be long. It already is. On one hand, I think it's good to miss things. I think that makes people come to it with really, really fresh eyes. And I think when they eventually see the game and what we have in mind, they'll understand the gap more in terms of technology and what we want to do. So, I mean, it sounds like they really want to push the boundaries here. Now, in terms of when are we going to hear more about this game, guys? Well, It's years away, not coming until after Starfield, Bethesda's next big project, which is releasing, obviously, an already released, guys. Oblivion, Fallout 4, and Skyrim were shown off in near-finished states with relatively small waits leading up to their launches, and Bethesda is probably priming The Elder Scrolls 6 for a similar sequence. Hines told us in 2016 that the next Elder Scrolls won't be teased along both as a mark of quality and as a balm for the development team to craft the game proper instead of diverting resources for vertical slice demos. That means the shot of some mountains could be the last we see of the Elder Scrolls 6 until much of the game is actually built. And I agree. I think it's absolutely something that we can expect. We won't see more until they've got a lot more to show off. Now, is it going to be an Xbox exclusive? This is a huge question people are asking in the community because Bethesda now is owned by Xbox, and that being Microsoft. By now, we've all heard that Microsoft bought Bethesda. For PC gamers, this news probably won't have any immediate downsides. If history is any judge, Microsoft will be more than happy to release Elder Scrolls 6 on PC, maybe even Steam. At worst, you'll have to trudge through the Windows 10 store to pick up a copy, while PS5 owners will be left out in the cold. The news about the Elder Scrolls 6 Xbox exclusive comes during Microsoft's 20th anniversary celebration for the original console. Xbox boss Phil Spencer was a little indirect, saying, in order to be on Xbox, I want us to be able to bring the full, complete package of what we have. And that would be true when I think about Elder Scrolls 6. The message received is that, yes, the Elder Scrolls 6 won't be on PlayStation. So, really interesting stuff, guys. It sounds like PlayStation is not really in their mindset, and it makes sense because Xbox wants to have their own line of exclusive titles. PlayStation has been notorious for having a number of exclusive titles. Xbox is as well, but this is for sure one of their biggest franchises that they've got. It's hard to not think of Todd Howard as a permanent fixture of Bethesda, the elder statesman of Elder Scrolls, if you will. Even Todd is subject to time, however, and Elder Scrolls games tend to eat up a lot of it, especially when you factor in post-release support. In an interview with IGN, Howard indicated that he's running the numbers on whether he'll have another Elder Scrolls in him once the next game is out the door. I probably shouldn't say this, but if I do the math, I'm not getting any younger, Howard said. How long do people play Elder Scrolls for? That may be the last one I do. I don't know. And so, look, Todd Howard has been awesome. The more recent years, I feel like Bethesda has been very shaky, to say the least, in terms of the games they've released and, just a lot of the different tactics that they use. But you can't take away from Todd Howard what he's brought to the gaming industry and to the space, and what Bethesda has done for the gaming industry. Incredible games. And, I think that he would certainly be missed if this was his last Elder Scrolls. But that being said, guys, those are the things that we know so far about Elder Scrolls. And, it'll be really interesting to see what happens, especially if this is Todd Howard's final hurrah with with just gaming, like making these games and game development. I would have to imagine if this is his last game with Bethesda, they're going to take their good time to make sure that it's a really notorious and a great farewell to Todd Howard. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. When do you think the Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be coming? I would love to hear your thoughts about this in the comment section down below. Let's have a conversation about it. And for more The Elder Scrolls 6 content and videos, stay here with zrotv. An incredible experience that I absolutely loved, guys, was the Infamous games. These games were really, really special in my personal opinion, and I really loved the first two. The third one I didn't like quite as much, but I will say that I feel that this is a franchise that should continue in the future, and it may take us as the community to echo this thing into existence. So I want to go ahead and talk about everything that we know so far about Infamous 4. Could this happen? Will it happen? Let's talk about it, guys. So in an article coming to us from Ash Bates of Cultured Ventures, playing as a super-powered being is like the ultimate wish fulfillment in gaming. So it's no surprise that Sucker Punch's Infamous series became as popular as it did. being able to explore a massive open world and make your own decisions about whether or not you'd let absolute power corrupt absolutely. Infamous was certainly a special kind of game. However, after 3 main installments and 2 standalone campaigns, the series appears to have fallen off the face of the earth. The first Infamous game launched in 2009 on PS3 and was seen as a huge departure for developer Sucker Punch, who had previously made a name for themselves developing the Sly Cooper trilogy. After the development of Sly 3 had wrapped, Sucker Punch were looking for their next big project, as Infamous's director Nate Fox explained in a 2009 interview with Joystick. We knew towards the end of Sly 3 that we wanted to do something else. Working on a cartoon thief game for 6 years, we got a little tired of sneaking around and wanted variation change. So, being comic book fans, it made a lot of sense to say, let's make a superhero game where we get to blow things up. Instead of cautiously looking through a bunch of guards' patrol paths, which Sly games had a fair amount of, we wanted to just be brazen and loud. And so that's where Infamous comes from. And look, I gotta tell you, Infamous was like just an incredible. I'm so glad that Sucker Punch moved away from the Sly games and created Infamous, because I think this is what really got them on the map. Despite earning some comparisons to Prototype, which launched around the same time, Infamous proved to be incredibly successful for both Sucker Punch and PlayStation. The game earned an 85 on Metacritic, with reviewers praising the open world gameplay and general power fantasy of playing as a superhero or villain if you preferred the evil route. By June 2010, about a year after the game first launched, it was revealed that Infamous had sold almost 2 million copies, at which point a sequel was already on the way. Development of Infamous 2 kicked off pretty much immediately after the first game finished, with Sucker Punch aiming to improve on the first game's core formula in any way they could. According to Ken Schramm, the communications director, during an interview with NZ Gamer, everything was on the table. The biggest theme of the second game was escalation, with Sucker Punch wanting the player to feel more powerful than ever. New powers, bigger enemies, and a grander scale helped to achieve that feeling, along with the fact you could import your previous game save and use all your old powers from the get-go. And the comparisons that, Infamous got to Prototype, they are definitely warranted. That's another game that I would love to see a continuation of, is Prototype. And that's, we've created a lot of Prototype content on the YouTube channel. You guys can check out all that stuff if you're interested. But this one, that being Infamous and Prototype, are 2 games that came out around the same time, and we haven't had games like that since, which is really, really interesting to me. I'd love to see these both come back in some way, shape, or form. There's immense pressure on developers to add multiplayer, and whether it belongs or not, people are tacking multiplayer modes onto their games. We never felt like this IP would be great for that, but we wanted to give customers a way to continue to enjoy the property, and co-op was discussed. But while co-op may have given you a new way to play, it didn't give you that feeling of, I want to keep playing, because ultimately the game still ends. I disagree with that, because I think that when you have co-op modes, it brings you back to the experience over and over again with your friends, whether it's you playing the campaign, whether you're just going up against waves and waves of enemies like zombies or horde mode in Gears of War. There's always something to do, whether it's with your friends or by yourself. Infamous 2 would almost reach equal level of critical success to the first game, earning an 83 on Metacritic. Most critics appreciated the bombastic improvements to the overall gameplay, even if it proved to be more of the same from the original game. Exact sales figures are hard to find, but it was the 3rd highest selling game of June 2011, behind LA Noire and Duke Nukem Forever, despite being exclusive, and it was Sony's highest seller for that month. So, obviously, guys, this series sold a lot of copies. There's no doubt about it. And we know that Sucker Punch right now is, of course, they worked on Ghost of Tsushima, which is unbelievable. They're working on a Ghost of Tsushima 2. So could they come back to this? I think they definitely could, but they're all hands on deck right now with Ghost of Tsushima, and for good reason. Now, What happened to Infamous ultimately? Well, Sucker Punch were developing a brand new game in the series when the PS4 was still being designed, meaning that the eventual product, Infamous Second Son, was developed from the ground up with the new console in mind. Sucker Punch were even considering a next-gen version of Infamous from as early as 2010, some 3 years before the PS4 would even launch, so Second Son was a big deal for the company. Infamous Second Son was a departure from the original games in the series, following a new protagonist in the form of Delsin Rowe, who has the power to absorb the powers of other superpower beings known as conduits. Basically, Delsin had the same powers as Peter in Heroes, but you could actually play as him. Now, once again, guys, the demise of Infamous reminds me a lot of the demise of Prototype, and it's very interesting to me that both these games were very similar. But when you had Alex Mercer in Prototype, the first game, they moved away from Alex Mercer so quickly in Prototype 2. And, you know, the reason for it is puzzling to me why they decided to do this. Well, Infamous did something similar. Now, they had 2 games at least with our main hero, and then they moved over to a secondary hero in Second Son. But any time that you change from character to character, or at least the character that you're playing as, you're taking a huge risk. You really have to build out the franchise before you do things like that. I think of games like Gears of War. You know, you had all these games, and then Gears of War 4 is where they changed, and the change they made was Marcus Phoenix is the main character from Gears 1 to 3, and then Gears 4 starts, and it's his son that takes over. Now, Marcus is still in the game, but you know, it's more, he's kind of the mentor, and you are, you know, JD, the son of Marcus, you know, kind of manning the ship, so to speak. And so, you know, when you do it that way, where it's kind of an evolution of the franchise over time, it makes sense. But you really can't do that with one game. You can't do it with necessarily 2. It usually takes a trilogy, and then you can make changes after that, and they just did not do that. So Second Son was announced in February 2013 as part of the PS4 reveal, marketed as a core selling point for the new console. It took a year for the game to launch on PS4, arriving on March 21st, 2014. Second Son was set in and across Seattle, with the team deciding to use the city so they could utilize the fact that most of the studio lives in the city and would draw heavily from the Native American experience, which is a core part of Seattle's identity. Infamous Second Son launched to an average of 80 on Metacritic, which is certainly a respectable score. Critics fell in love with the core gameplay, noting that it was an improvement over the first 2 games in the series, but some issues with the story and morality system left a sour taste. It was a great game, but it was a far cry from a world beater. Then again, it was better than the Xbox One's wave of exclusives at the time. So Sucker Punch also spun off one of the characters from Second Son, Fetch, into their own standalone DLC in the form of First Light. The game began development just after Second Son, with Sucker Punch deciding to focus on the character after the positive player reception she received. Unfortunately, First Light received the worst scores of the series, averaging a 73 on Metacritic. Critics enjoyed the character, but the more of the same approach to this DLC wasn't everyone's cup of tea. It also didn't help that First Light was incredibly brief. For me, guys, Second Son was the weakest of the 3 games, and in my mind, it wasn't really even close. I mean, sure, they did improve a couple of things, but I just loved our storylines that we had in the first 2 games, and I just felt that it was a title that took a step in the wrong direction. So what's the future here, guys? Well, there's been no follow-up or even word of a new Infamous game since 2014, and it's not immediately clear why. The PS4 exclusive reviewed decently well, and the sales have been fantastic, especially with Second Son. It feels like the series was killed off at the peak of its popularity, with Sucker Punch moving on to new things with Ghost of Tsushima. With the recent sales of Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut and the inevitable sequel, it's clear that Sucker Punch are preoccupied right now. There's the possibility, though, that Infamous Second Son could see new light in the form of a PC port in the future. Sony have been porting more games to the PC over the past couple of years, such as Days Gone and Horizon Zero Dawn. And while Second Son might be an older property in comparison, it's held high in high enough regard to be considered part of the PlayStation Plus collection on PS5, which is a collection of stellar PS4 games that PS Plus players can enjoy. Perhaps the success of that, if it happens, could warrant a new game. So as for whether or not we'll see a new game, it's unclear whether or not Sucker Punch would be the ones to bring the series back. It's a bit of a kaput answer, but it's been 12 years since the release of the original game, so perhaps it's time for a remake of some kind. Blueprint have proved their capabilities when it comes to reviving classic PlayStation games like Shadow of the Colossus or Demon's Souls. A PS5 version of Infamous from those acclaimed developers would be a real winner. Infamous is one of the most beloved PlayStation franchises, and with Sony featuring plenty of serious single-player exclusive like The Last of Us, Horizon, Ghost of Tsushima, there's room in their portfolio for a bombastic, superpowered extravaganza, and Infamous would fit that bill. Whether or not we'll actually see it is another story. So here's what I'll say, guys. I think we as the community have to come together if we want another Infamous game made, voicing our opinion to Sucker Punch that we want another Infamous title. I feel that our voice does matter, and it can work. I look at games like Dead Space that were in a limbo state or a state of no return. No one thought another Dead Space was going to come out after the original trilogy because of how bad the third game did in terms of, critical reception and things of that nature. But we got a Dead Space remake. And so what I would love to see is an Infamous remake. Make a Infamous remake. Whoever does it, whether it's Sucker Punch or some other company, does the remake and then see what the popularity is. How popular is the remake? Is there still an audience here for this title? And then if there is, then you can go full blown into an Infamous 4. I really don't see many ways around outside of that unless they do some kind of collection or something of that nature, like a full remaster of all three games. It's going to be interesting, guys, to say the least, to see what happens here. But I believe that Infamous 4 would be incredible. And of course, with the modern technology, modern gaming, it would be something really special. But let me know, guys, do you think Infamous 4 will ever see the light of day? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts about this in the comment section down below. And for more Infamous 4 content and videos, stay here with zrotv. One of my most anticipated games of the future is Judas. This is a game, guys, coming from the creator of BIOSHOCK, that being Ken Levine and his company, Ghost Story Games. I want to talk about this title, guys, everything that we know so far, and I would love to hear your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. So let's get into it. In an article coming to us from Adrian Mark Palanga of Cultured Ventures. In 2007, BioShock rocked the gaming world with its fascinating blend of the FPS and horror genres. FPS horror games aren't exactly a new concept, of course. However, nothing else felt as claustrophobic and action-packed as running and fighting your way through Rapture and Columbia. If that sounds like your idea of a great game, then get ready for Judas. When is this game coming out, guys? That is something that everybody wants to know. And I will say that it's got a lot of BioShock types of style. It looks like a BioShock game when you're watching the trailer, for sure. And so you got to wonder, is this in the BioShock universe somehow, or is it more just kind of like a spiritual successor, so to speak? Well, when is the game coming out? Well, Judas was first announced during the Game Awards of 2022, followed by a press release on the developer's main website, which included a short synopsis. Unfortunately, what it didn't include was a release date. However, the release window for Judas might be between now and March of 2026, and there is evidence to support this. You can take a look at Take-Two Interactive's latest investor presentation. In slide 29, you'll see a list of upcoming games they have planned for fiscal years 2024 to 2026. They have 52 games planned, and among those is Judas. The end of Take-Two Interactive's fiscal year is at the end of March, which means Judas should release before that. Take this with a grain of salt, though, because the investor presentation they released in February of 2023 presented something else. There, they still have Judas listed as one of their upcoming games. However, this time the list is for games within the fiscal years 2023 to 2025. Who knows how far they'll push the dates back in future presentations. And in my mind, guys, I actually think that Judas may come before 2026. I think that it's probably reasonable to expect it coming out in like 2025. 2026, definitely, it's possible. I guess it depends on what all this game encompasses. Is it just a single player story, which is what it sounds like, or are they adding more modes to it like co-op, multiplayer, things of that nature, which would of course take more time. So what's this game about? Well, guys, Judas is an FPS game made by the same people who made BioShock. That's not where the similarities end. The plot and gameplay of Judas have some striking similarities to BIOSHOCK. You play as a woman named Judas, stranded in a disintegrating starship. The good news is that you're not alone on the ship. The bad news is that everyone else hates you. If you want to survive and escape, you'll have to form shaky alliances with some of them. The game has been stuck in development hell for some time now. The developers may have made Judas public in 2022, but they've already been tinkering on its concept since 2014. Ken Levine mentions this is the Game Developers Conference in 2014. By 2015, they've already had very rudimentary gameplay going. As far the gameplay, much like BioShock, Judas's combat will involve a mix of traditional firearms and what appears to be either magic or sci-fi technology. Your right hand holds and fires guns while your left hand controls fire, electricity, and probably more. Which platforms is the game going to come on? Well, Judas will be launching on the PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC through Epic Games and Steam. Bad news for players whose main consoles are the PS4, Xbox One, or Nintendo Switch. If you're looking forward to Judas and you only own those consoles, you might want to get an upgrade. So in terms of Ghost Story Games, guys, this development team that's making the game, Judas, as mentioned above, Judas is being developed by the same company that made BioShock, Ghost Story Games. If the name doesn't ring a bell, that's because it's undergone a rebranding. And the thing is, it's not even the first time it's been rebranded. Ghost Story Games started out as Irrational Games in 1997. It was then purchased and turned into a subsidiary of Take-Two Interactive in 2006. It was renamed to 2K Boston in 2007. In 2010, Take-Two Interactive changed 2K Boston's name back to Irrational Games. It was during these periods that it made its most successful franchise, BioShock. It's why 2K Boston and Irrational Games are probably the names most people would recognize. So in 2017, they changed their name to Ghost Story Games. Despite the name change, it is still a subsidiary of Take-Two Interactive, and Ken Levine is still the president and creative director of the company. And I gotta tell you, Ken Levine, there's been a lot of controversy around him and the way that he creates games, and a lot of developers say that there's a massive crunch when working on his games, and he's really tough to work with and so on and so forth. But I will say that he brings out great performances out of actors, actresses, and even the development team, even if it's like a tough process. And game development in general, guys, sounds like a very difficult process for sure. Ken Levine, they have made some incredible games. That being BioShock, BioShock Infinite, unbelievable. I mean, they're mind-blowing games. I think BioShock Infinite, it's one of the best games ever made. Unbelievable, especially the ending. It just left us on this massive cliffhanger. I can't imagine what they're working on here with Judas. That's what makes it incredibly exciting. But Judas is actually Ghost Story Games' first release after the rebranding. If it becomes a huge success, you can expect more games like this on the horizon, maybe even a sequel or two. Bottom line is this, guys. Judas sounds like an incredible game. Even though we don't know a ton about it, they haven't given us tons and tons of information. But from what we've seen from the trailer and what we're hearing from the studio in terms of what they've the little nuggets they've given out, this sounds like an incredible experience. Another one that this team is, I believe, going to knock it out of the park. I think that they're going to make an incredible experience, and I can't wait to hear more information and see more as we go, and I'll be sure to keep you guys all up to speed as more information comes out. Let me know though, guys, what do you all think about Judas? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more Judas content and videos, keep it here with zrotv. A game I would love to see a return to is Killzone. This is a title, guys, that was like Sony's Call of Duty. Lots and lots of people were, loved this title and this franchise as a whole, myself included. Absolutely loved it. I mean, it was one of the reasons why I bought a PlayStation way back in the day. That and Resistance. Those two games were two reasons why I bought, a PlayStation. And it's very interesting that both of these franchises have stopped and they have not continued, especially with the looming Call of Duty Microsoft, acquisition, that being Activision Blizzard coming to Microsoft, becoming a console exclusive at some point, that being Call of Duty with Microsoft is a possibility. Well, Sony has a couple of games in their back pocket, that being Killzone and Resistance, that they have not, continued for whatever reason. And I want to talk in this segment of the show about Killzone and the continuation. Could we see it here in the foreseeable future? Let's talk about it. So guys, in an article that's coming to us from Fran Ruiz of Escapist Magazine, though the Microsoft Activision merger has just been blocked by UK regulators, the acquisition of the House of Call of Duty is far from dead at the moment, and Sony isn't out of the woods yet. In fact, its big FPS problem won't vanish if the deal doesn't go through. There once was a time when Sony actually had first-person shooters coming out on a regular basis. Mind you, none of them were nearly as popular as Call of Duty, yet they gave the brand's portfolio variety. For many players, Killzone and Resistance even became reasons on their own to buy a PlayStation 3. If you weren't crazy about Halo and most of your friends weren't stuck on Xbox Live, PS3 could do both Call of Duty and Sony's braver FPS titles, plus the online service was free. It was a pretty sweet deal. I agree. I loved that PlayStation Online was free back in the day, so you could just play Killzone or play Resistance for free with your friends, and there were a lot of people who did that. There's no doubt about it. Well, fast forward to 2023, and it's been almost a decade since Sony's last major FPS release, which was Killzone Shadowfall. As an initial showcase of PS4's power, it was a solid entry, but it wasn't nearly as well received as the PS3 installments. Still, it was far from being a huge disappointment, yet Sony closed the door on the series and instead encouraged Guerrilla Games to pursue a new IP. At the time, this decision made sense since Guerrilla had been stuck playing with the Hellgast since the PlayStation 2 era. No company should be stuck for too long working on a single property. However, Killzone didn't deserve such an unceremonious and silent death. Seeing a Hallmark first-party franchise slowly fade into oblivion for no good reason feels weird. Insomniac's Resistance series always had more trouble keeping enough folks interested, and the company has had plenty of varied projects in the works since 2011, so the death of Sony's other big FPS series was easier to digest. Killzone, on the other hand, appears to be a victim of the changing times kickstarted by The Last of Us success. Naughty Dog's overpowering triumphs with both Uncharted 3 and The Last of Us at the tail end of the PS3 generation spelled trouble at the Sony camp for anything that wasn't a cinematic third-person action adventure game. These changes in the overall strategy didn't happen overnight, but it's easy to follow a through line since 2013 and for the next 10 years. Big budget experiments became scarcer, some genres were nuked entirely from the portfolio, and Sony doubled down on prestige third-person titles that are both self-serious and expensive. While it's hard to argue against their accomplishments and the median quality of such productions, it feels like a lot of value has been quietly lost over the years. Ever since Horizon Zero Dawn, Guerrilla has been stuck working on Horizon and nothing else. Even Naughty Dog, the industry's current pampered child, has stepped out of The Last of Us depressing world a couple of times since 2013 and reportedly started work on a new IP. Killzone is out of bounds even though a new Sony exclusive FPS has never been more needed. We lack knowledge about what's happening behind the scenes, but it appears that Guerrilla is already jumping straight into Horizon 3 after Forbidden West kept the Sony spark alive last year until God of War Ragnarok came in and crushed some mad numbers. Insomniac should be left out of the first-party FPS conversation entirely, as its main focus is now on Marvel properties and probably a follow-up to 2021's Ratchet & Clank banger, which is still one of the few true PlayStation 5 exclusives. As for Naughty Dog, it may contribute a half solution to Sony's pressing online-oriented problem if the long-teased standalone The Last of Us multiplayer game actually delivers. The ongoing drama and bleeding of creatives over at Halo head studio 343 Industries is certainly taking some weight off of Sony's shoulders, but plus its bombshell purchase of Bungie back in early 2022 could spawn a shooter big enough to compete against the genre's current heavyweights. But Sony's several attempts at blocking the colossal Microsoft Activision deal suggest it's terribly afraid of losing all that Call of Duty money before it can get a new FPS giant off the ground. And I totally agree with this, because I feel that Killzone is a franchise that's right there to put a lot of resource and development into and create something really special. Maybe it's like, they come out with a Killzone title that, you don't have to come out with a new one every year like they do with Call of Duty. Maybe you bring one out and make it like CSGO. Make it be like this title that's going to, stay, and they're going to, service it over time. Make it like Sony's exclusive FPS title. And I feel that if they really dump a lot of resource and development into it, and you have a good development team working on it, it could be something so special for PlayStation, because really Xbox, when you think about it, outside of Halo, there's not many other FPS titles it has. Now it's going to be getting Call of Duty here very, very shortly, but Killzone, I just feel that this is a franchise that needs to exist, and I'm wondering if we're going to get it here at some point in the future. I'm hoping, guys, that we get a Killzone 4 or Killzone 5, depending on how you look at it, but I really think that this is a title that needs to happen. I think that there's a lot of people who would love to see a continuation of this franchise, and I would love to see it myself. But with that being said, everyone, I would love to hear your thoughts about Killzone. Are we going to get a sequel, a continuation of Killzone, or maybe even just a remake, something that we could get from Sony that is going to bring this series back to the forefront, and something that, could it eventually be something that competes with Call of Duty? Who knows, guys? What do you all think? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more Killzone content and videos, stay here with zrotv. I've said this a lot, but one of my favorite games on the original Xbox was Mafia. And I thought, guys, that the first two Mafia games were absolutely incredible. I even liked the third game a lot as well. Not as much as the first two, but what an incredible trilogy we've had up to this point. And I want to talk about Mafia 4 because I've wanted to see a continuation of this franchise at some point or another. And it sounds like we're getting more and more information, guys, as time has gone on from Hangar 13 in terms of, maybe what we can expect from this title as we get closer and closer to its launch. Let's talk about it. So guys, in an article that's coming to us from Tyler Fisher of Comic Book Gaming, according to previous reports from reputable sources, a new Mafia game, tentatively dubbed Mafia 4, is in development at Hangar 13, the studio responsible for Mafia 3 and Mafia Definitive Edition. Hangar 13 and its parent company 2K have yet to validate these rumors with any type of official announcement, and according to a new update, this may not be happening anytime soon because according to this update, the game is still in pre-production. Now, when you go on Hangar 13's website, they are hiring a number of positions, guys, for you to be in a Mafia game. That being, like senior designers, engineers, things of that nature, and they're looking for people specific for Mafia. And it says that right on their website, guys, in terms of job listing. So I believe they're past the pre-production. I believe that they're full-blown in production at this point in time. So as for the update, it comes from a new Hangar 13 job listing over on LinkedIn for the position of tools engineer. The position itself isn't notable, but the job listing notes applicants will be working on an unannounced game currently in pre-production. It also notes that said game is being made in Unreal Engine 5, which the aforementioned reports also claimed. Hangar 13 is looking for a highly self-motivated tools programmer who enjoys a collaborative and creative work environment. Tools programmers work directly with content creators to give them the power to create amazing experiences and to support our culture of iterative design to make AAA games. Create and maintain tools for an unannounced multi-platform game currently in pre-production using Unreal Engine 5. It's possible this is outdated and inaccurate information. It's also possible this job listing isn't for a new Mafia game. It's important to keep both of these things in mind and take everything here with a grain of salt. At the moment of publishing, neither Hangar 13 nor 2K have addressed the speculation created by the job listing. At the end of the day is this: Mafia, I believe, is certainly in development at this point, guys, just based on the job listings and all of those things that we've been getting. Now, it has not been confirmed that it's called Mafia 4. There were rumors that it was being set in Las Vegas, which I think would be an incredible setting for a Mafia 4. We don't know for sure, guys, what all this game is going to encompass. I do believe it's coming. But a couple of things I would love to see here is I would love to see Hangar 13 take a couple of things out of the book of Grand Theft Auto, another 2K games title, that being a full package. I really believe that Mafia would be so good in terms of single player story. It's unbelievable. I've said it many times. I believe that the narrative of Mafia is better than that of GTA. Now, where GTA gets Mafia is they have a full package. They have ways that you can play with your friends. They have, GTA Online. They have all these other ways that bring you back the experience over and over again. Yes, Mafia has DLC, but what they need is a full package. They need to have, co-op modes, multiplayer modes. I think it's perfect. Have a Mafia online. Imagine that, going back to the 1930s, playing as a Mafia member in a Mafia online setting. I think it could be absolutely epic in a multitude of proportions, and maybe that's what's taking the game a while to get made here, but I just really hope that they decide to make it a full package instead of just a single player experience, because it's a great single player experience, but imagine what it could be with co-op and multiplayer modes. We'll have to wait and see. What do you guys think, though, about Mafia 4? What do you think it's going to be like? What's the setting going to be? Is it going to be a full package or still just a single player story? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And for more Mafia 4 content and videos, keep it here with zrotv. As you guys can see, I still have the Max Payne Platinum hits. Gosh, what an incredible game. From Remedy, of course, and Rockstar Games. And I want to talk about this because Max Payne is a beloved franchise to not only myself, but many of us, and we want to see a continuation of it. Well, I want to talk about the things that we know so far about a Max Payne 4, the possibility of it, any rumors, leaks, speculation. Let's talk about it, guys. In an article that's coming to us from Yuhadid Hussein of Gamers Time, Max Payne 4 is the fourth game in the Max Payne series by Rockstar Games, known for their famous titles such as Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption. The Max Payne series is a cult classic of third-person shooters known for its neo-noir atmosphere, bullet time action, and dark humor. There have been rumors and speculation about Max Payne 4 for years, but there has been no official confirmation from the developer and publisher of the series. However, there are a few reasons to believe that a fourth game could be in the works. First, Rockstar Games has been remastering the first two Max Payne games, which suggests that they are still interested in the franchise. Second, there have been a number of leaks and rumors about Max Payne 4 in recent years. These leaks have included details about the game's setting, characters, and story. So gotta take it with a grain of salt, guys, without question. But the last game in the series, Max Payne 3, was released in 2012, and fans have been clamoring for a sequel ever since. As the publisher of the Max Payne series, Rockstar Games has played a crucial role in shaping the franchise's success. Known for their groundbreaking titles like Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption, Rockstar Games has established itself as a powerhouse in the gaming industry. With their involvement in Max Payne 4, players can expect a high-quality production that stays true to the spirit of the previous games. So what could we expect here? Well, while specific details about Max Payne 4 are still under wraps, fans can expect a thrilling third-person shooting experience that pushes the boundaries of the genre. The previous games in the series have showcased intense gunfights, a gripping narrative, and a cinematic presentation that immerses players in Max's dark and troubled world. It is safe to assume that Max Payne 4 will build upon these foundations while introducing new gameplay elements and improvements. One of the things I loved about the original Max Payne game was how dark it was, how gritty it was. And when we got to Max Payne 3, it was a little bit not quite as dark as the previous two. And Remedy games, obviously, and Remedy Entertainment, they are the ones making Control. And of course, their new one is Alan Wake. And Alan Wake is a game that I'm seeing has a lot of similarities to Max Payne. And, you know, Max Payne going through like a very, very troubled time after losing his family and things of that nature in the first game. I would love to see a really dark kind of setting here in Max Payne 4. And, you know, Remedy, I think, would be perfect for the job. Now, there's talk that Remedy are the ones who are actually developing the Max Payne 1 and 2 remakes. And so that's going to be very interesting. Could that lead us to a Max Payne 4? I think there's a real good possibility of that. Now, considering the previous entries in the series, Max Payne 4 is likely to be released on multiple platforms, including Xbox and PlayStation consoles. With the introduction of new hardware like the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, players can expect enhanced visuals, improved performance, and more immersive experience overall. As for multiplayer, while it hasn't been officially confirmed, it wouldn't be surprising to see a multiplayer component in Max Payne 4, allowing players to engage in intense gunfights with friends and other players online. I would love to see this. I've said it many times, guys. If it's a AAA title, there's 3 A's there. So there should be 3 components of every AAA title, that being a single player story, co-op modes, and multiplayer modes. I would love to see that here in Max Payne, where after you're done with the single player story, you can play it with your friends, or you can play, you know, against waves and waves of different enemies, kind of like a horde mode. Or you can play multiplayer against other people across the globe. I think that would be very, very fascinating to say the least. And with that being said, guys, I would love to hear your thoughts about Max Payne 4. Is this a game you believe is going to be coming out? Do you think it's years upon years away? What are your thoughts about it? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let's have a conversation about it. And for more Max Payne 4 content and videos, stay here with zrotv. An incredible franchise that I would love to see a return to is that of Ninja Gaiden. This is a title, guys, and a franchise that's incredible in a multitude of ways. I absolutely love this franchise. I would love to see a continuation of it in the form of a Ninja Gaiden 4, but we haven't had any confirmation in terms of if a Ninja Gaiden 4 is coming. So what are the things that we know so far about this title? Obviously, these games have sold very, very well for Team Ninja. I want to talk about it with you guys. Let's have a real conversation about it in the comment section down below. So let's get into it. So guys, in an article coming to us from Andy Robinson of Video Games Chronicle, Team Ninja has reportedly confirmed plans to reboot both Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive in the future. That's according to a translation of a talk the developer's president held in South Korea. According to RuliWeb, Fumiko Yasuda said during a panel at the G-Star conference in Busan that he was working to bring fans more news as soon as possible. A slide reportedly shown at the end of his panel picture below shows images of both classic Team Ninja series along with the headline, "The Future of Team Ninja, Reboot of Popular Series in Japanese." Yasuda has publicly stated his desire to revive the Ninja Gaiden series multiple times. The Tecmo action-adventure series hasn't seen a mainline installment since 2012's Ninja Gaiden 3. Yasuda, who is the director of Neo and its sequel, was a level designer for Ninja Gaiden 2 and directed the series' third installment. In an interview with VGC that took place in January 2021, Yasuda told us that he had no plans for a new installment in the Ninja Gaiden series, but stated his desire to one day return to the series. Then earlier, he said that all the pieces would need to fit for a theoretical future Ninja Gaiden game to be developed, and expressed willingness to potentially outsource a new game to an external company or a younger internal team. We're not announcing anything, Yasuda said, but both of those ideas sound like great plans and are both possibilities in a sense. Those are both very, very reasonable ideas for potentially a sequel in any series, not just Ninja Gaiden. And so what I would say about that, guys, is if they outsourced it to another company, that's totally fine. I think more companies should do this, but they should be the ones that are overseeing a lot of things, making sure that, the fidelity of the game, fits what, the history of Ninja Gaiden is. They should be, doing a number of things to make sure that this title is everything that players want it to be. But outsourcing it to another, a third party, I think there's nothing wrong with that. But especially like a reboot of the franchise could be something really, really special. But what I want to say is, if we were to theoretically work with another company on a new Ninja Gaiden title, we would need to make sure that it would be a title that the fans would really enjoy and exceed their expectations. It's not just a matter of, hey, let's just go do this. All the pieces would need to fit, and it would need to be the right team, either a younger team internally or another company that would really need to fit the Ninja Gaiden pedigree. And I agree. I think having a great team around this, a young team around this, that are hungry to make something really special should be the ones that are making a new Ninja Gaiden title. Do I believe that it's going to be coming at some point? Absolutely, guys. I mean, it's too big of a franchise. It's such a cult classic to not see a return of Ninja Gaiden in the future. And so I think us as, fans and people who want to see this game come out, we've got to voice our opinion to the developers, telling them that we want another Ninja Gaiden title to come out. And our voice matters, and it can really move mountains, guys, in a number of ways. So I would love to see this happen at some point or another in the future. But let me know, guys, do you think that Ninja Gaiden 4 is something that's going to come out in the future, or do you think it's going to be in a limbo state or a state of no return? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.